Namaste to you, gang. I gotta sit up. I hope that you're having a wonderful time right now. I am having just the most wonderful time of my whole life. Just every day is a miracle. I can't believe it. How fortunate and blessed I am. I'm not trying to sound like I'm doing a sermon or something. Maybe that would be fun, but yeah, man, I feel really good about things, like almost like unbelievably good about things. It's so great. I do sometimes just straight up, I sleep over there. I get up out of my bed and I press play and record something because when I'm on the edge of sleep, in that hypnagogic state, I often have like big streams of ideas and there's a sort of feeling of unresolved until I can get them out to you. And actually that is a great like prelude to kind of the whole point of this video in general is we don't really talk about what it's all about very much. Feeling totally constipated because 5 weeks of podcasts failed, generally due to AV issues. I flaked on the Sunday one time. I just slept through it. My alarm, I had my phone silenced. James slept through the next one because they were sick. So 2 weeks with no podcast, and then 2 of them we had to scrap because of AV stuff. I use Linux for everything, which means like nothing's really guaranteed to work, but you don't have to like put up with a bunch of bullshit and like pay money to the richest people in the world who control what you're allowed to see. What is it all about? What the hell am I talking about? What am I here for? What is it all about? Unthink me. It's a story. Adam, I am a character in the story. It's not a story about me, but my story is a story within the story. In the way that I perceive it, the protagonist is you, actually. However you found this, I hope that you find that it's kind of stirring something within you to have discovered this thing that I'm doing, and and I think that a lot of people, like in my community, even there's this kind of sense of like, well, okay, like I'm listening, so what do you want? And I think that's like fair. I think that's like legitimate. Like, what is this all about? The dialoguing, I think, is really helping me just in terms of using the language in everyday speech, like in the kind of things you normally talk about, and seeing how it does, in fact, apply to like everything that you're kind of thinking about and doing, and how it leads you to kind of question the deeper nature and narrative of everything. I think it's a very legitimate question to be asking of me and of you, the protagonist. What I would say about that is that I consider this the way that I do art right now. That I know, like, don't get me started about being pretentious. Like, art is just like making stuff because you have an idea or a vision or an image or something that you just really want to make it into a real thing. And you want to share that with people, and you want people to appreciate it in the same way that you do. And that's why this applies to me in exactly the same way that writing fiction does, and playing guitar and singing and writing songs does. Making movies, every which possible way to do it has been kind of appealing to me for the same reason, that I feel like things that are really fundamental and central to my moral understanding of reality need to be expressed in some way. But this it is how I see reality. It's not a religion, and I don't believe in anything. I'm just saying, like, integral theory is so internalized for me that I can't like really understand why people would waste the time of not internalizing some of integral theory. And I'm not mad. I'm not. It's not like that. It's just like I want to share this shorthand. I want to share this like language that just solves legitimate problems in the self, in the cultural narrative, and in society as a whole. Like, I really genuinely believe that, and that's exactly why I'm doing it. I got into reading Ken Wilber books when I was like 20, and I was kind of ideologically driven, and I had kind of experimented with a lot of like ideological areas. In Wilber, I found this sort of harmony with how I understand the world to be. This reality that I'm experiencing is a developmental process. It's an evolving phenomenon. And if you don't appreciate that, you're going to be so damn lost. It's going to challenge you in a different way every time unless you're not moving forward. Each new challenge will bring you into conflict with yourself, of course, and with others, and with the basic facts of survival at every stage. And it'll fuck up your relationships sometimes. Yeah. That's evolution, baby. But but why am I sharing it with you? Because within the bounds of comprehending the model, you see how it ends most of the serious problems that we have. The disharmony and the communication errors and the cultural warfare and all the radicalism and the collapse of a sense of truth, a sense of like something fundamentally uniting things. We don't really trust in institutions or ideologies as much anymore. We're kind of ironically living life. That's a great way to be. That's how smart people act. But for every person alive, there's a very genuine thing happening as well that's naked and ugly. And I swear to God, there's like a reason why I do things in the order that I do. But I made the video about how my mom died on my 18th birthday. And in the piece that I wrote about that was published in the Bear the Paul book, compilation by Sally Lehman, the end of it is that I wrote a song about it, and it was the first song I ever wrote, and that I never play it for anyone. And it was sort of a cliffhanger for you to think about that. Whatever. I actually filmed that, and I didn't like it anymore. I think I performed it well, but the writing was embarrassing. But it had good moments, and I actually cried, so that was cool. When my mom died, there was this weird thing that happened, like you're like nothing can feel okay at all for like a month, and you wonder if it'll ever end. People, of course, go out of their way to kind of be there with you and to be there for you, and it doesn't help, at first. So there's kind of misunderstanding there, like nobody can make you feel better when you're grieving really hard. You don't want to. You have to feel those feelings. You have to get them out. The support needs to be there because eventually it will help to bail you out, and you need to have it for your safety at least, But it takes a while before you're able to really embrace it. At least it did for me. Out of that, so I have to say that first to kind of just foreshadow, like it was horrible, it was just it was nonstop crying fit, Then being like afraid of everybody else because you just are about to cry at any moment, and people are curious about it, and I don't know, it's just, so I have to say how terrible it was, at least kind of give a little bit of that, because I'm not a psychopath, right? Every time I go through that process, I come out a much more whole, real person, and that allows me to feel joy, and it allows me to feel connectedness, and it allows me to feel purpose and meaning, instead of just being like kind of phased out of everything, just kind of going through the motions, like we're really here. This is all really happening, and it's real. It's like, wow. Everything is in a screen, in a little screen, and it's like, it kind of makes it feel like everything's a video game, like happening somewhere far off, but it's all really just like here on our world. I'm here right now, like talking at you. You're listening to it several hours later, I hope. And so I started playing music, and I was just obsessed with the guitar, and I played guitar all day, every day. Whenever you'd see a picture of me, I was playing the guitar. I got an acoustic, I got an electric. I didn't really care about learning it for quite a while, but I really played it a lot, and I jammed a lot, and started printing out tabs, and then I was playing songs that like I liked. And I was trying to form bands with people. They wanted a bassist, so I learned bass. So I was playing bass. I was writing songs on guitar. I was learning how to record. I was learning how to produce like industrial beats and like layer tracks and use all the compression and effects and all the mastering and EQ, compression, reverb, yeah, all the garbage you have to learn. You have to learn like everything ever, and like recording equipment and like interfaces and computer digital audio workstations, and it's a whole thing. And I got really into it. I got into production. I played in a lot of bands. I started my own band. I reformed it like 5 times. We played shows. We toured. We were around like Portland. Like people might have heard of us. We were something different. In every case, it was a lot of different sounds, but like we were always something where people would be like, "What the fuck?" Like we left an impression on people, I feel like, and that's a good thing. Those songs were straight out of my dream world. That was like that material was very, very real to me. The point is that was breeded out of grief. That came out of suffering. Like suffering became like it needed a lens to express itself. It needed some sort of outlet, and so I just became obsessed with creative music. And I and I studied like all of rock history, and I got really into jazz, and then I stopped liking rock, but I knew like all the indie rock and all the alternative stuff, and I went down like every rabbit hole and like old-timey blues, and like just obsessed with music. I'm a really great general musician or like producer kind of, but I wouldn't want to dedicate like 5 hours a day to one instrument. It's like, that isn't really like how my brain works, man. I mean, that's kind of why I have so little like polished, material, is because I'm just always on to the next thing. It's like I'm always on to the next thing with that. So it's not very compatible with me, but I was an excellent teacher, because like that's all the student really wants, is like about as much out of it that I want, is just to like learn how to do it. And then once you know how to do it, like make a thing to prove it, and then you're like already on to the next thing. And it's like, I don't remember how to play any of that stuff. I'd need like a whole 4 days or something to learn how to play one of my own songs at this point. What I wanted to do, the experiment of this video is, in my opinion, it's like, I feel like the 100 or 200 people who will watch this within a month are the people who kind of watch these in general. At this point, you kind of know me, really. Like, you're probably one of my Discord people, so I don't have to like talk to you as though you're a general audience as much. So I thought it might be fun to just basically like wing it, and I really did go at it with the intention of winging it here. I didn't want to do a more prepared thing. I just wanted to try like being a little bit more real and just kind of seeing what emerges. I do have kind of a couple of like milestones to hit in this video that I'm trying to hit, but I want this to just feel like we're hanging out and having a conversation. And unfortunately, you've lost your voice, and so I'm just supposed to talk to you. I want to talk a lot about relationships, so there's several reasons why I talked about my mother. It was to do with how she does relationships and how that affects a child, who is me, and how that will affect relationships, and having to learn how to not do that. When my mom died, it left kind of a hole in me, on a metaphorical level. What I mean is, we were really close, and she played like a lot of roles in my life and for my self-esteem and for like my introspection and stuff, obviously, like as a parent does, and we were like extremely close. And so out of nowhere, I kind of got my first girlfriend that I'd ever had, because I had like really low self-esteem at that age. And it actually went really, really well, and we were together for many years, but it was kind of decided that what kind of came down to me was that I'm like a lower class kind of person, like that. At the time, I didn't really have any prospects for the future, and I suppose like at 40 now, like she wasn't that far off, like saying that she thought I'd end up in a pink trailer in Butte, but I don't think she would ever fathom how happy I am, and how much I've enjoyed the journey of my life, and wouldn't give it up for anything. And material comforts are kind of, to me, a joke. Like you waste away in comfort. Do this thing where I everyone I'm in love with, I stay in love with them forever. So I have a lot of people that I'm genuinely in love with. It's not to say that I would ever like want to get back together with any of them, really. Just that that feeling for me doesn't really go away. It's like it's like a thing that I associate with a person, and it doesn't really ever go away. And so I took that really, really hard, and that was it. And then I released like my first album. Like I made a whole CD over the summer while watching anime movies, like in Rewind. Like I was totally disturbed by this. And I don't blame her at all. We were very like, we were young and immature, and neither one of us like communicated well. And so like we were just trying to be positive all the time, and we never like got into our issues at all. So it all just kind of like exploded all at once, and it was just done, you know. And she wasn't ready to like settle down with her first guy, I think, too. Like she was really like, you know, like as we all are, like afraid of commitment, you know, like afraid of you want to try like a lot of things, you want to figure out what you like. And I think that's like a really valid reason for anybody to leave their first relationship, especially if the guy's like kind of a dork. That fueled me though. I can't really explain it. It's like, it's almost like the only way I can kind of get back at someone for some reason is like making art. It's like expressing myself and just like getting out into the world that we're all in this like pickle together, and we need to work together, but not just like, yeah, you know, but like genuinely like what we're good at, you know, realistically in an adult way. Like we need to be more genuine and honest and real about what we're doing and what we're trying to do and how we do it. And like really what is moral, you know, not just like taking assumptions for granted and like trying to impose them on everyone, but like, you know, what do you really think? What do you really think is acceptable and unacceptable? And what are you going to do about it? Right? And for me, it's art. This is my weapon. I make art stuff, and it makes me feel really good about myself. I can't explain it. It's like nobody has ever liked my shit except me and like my close friends, and that's just because they like me so much. And I'm a really likable guy. But like my stuff is generally kind of like a little cringy, I guess, just because like I said, you know, I have this brain where I just jump from one thing to the other, and I just try to get really good at it. And then once I feel like I've learned it, I kind of move on to something else. There's like a spiral in my life where I get really into art, and I become like this cool guy over like a long period of time, like an acceptable person, and I kind of find my way. And then I meet another woman, as it were now, like girl generally at the time, and they come to me as the just amazing godsend, like unexplainable, just like I never thought there was anyone like this. I never thought I could feel this way. Like she gets me, she knows me, she can read into me, she can ask me the right questions, she can tell me the things I want to hear, she can be real with me, we can cry together, you know, we can she's telling me everything, I'm telling her everything. Like I don't feel put away by her. I don't feel like she's trying to get me to be someone other than the person that I naturally would be. I get sucked in pretty easily, and sucked in, you know, and they're the same way, you know, they get sucked into me, and we have this thing like, holy shit, like what, you're serious, like you're so out of my league, you know. And we both, you know, are saying that to each other, and we're laughing about it, and we're staying up all night talking, and it's just all very romantic, and it seems so real. And so I get sucked into these things like quickly, right? And for me, quickly, I'm talking like months and months. You know, I'm a very slow dude. I am cautious. You know, it takes me a while to get to know someone, and also it takes people a while to get to know me. Generally, my first impressions are not as good as you do get to know me, which is again why I'm feel like enabled to be a little bit more real in some of these videos that I'm doing now, like experimentally. The spiral that I refer to is I kind of come to a good place where like everything's kind of working out, and I meet the girl, right? And then the spiral starts to tip backward. I get really into this relationship, and it's often like the thing that I'm doing artistically kind of explodes a little bit at that point too, and so the relationship becomes more viable. That's like usually how the timeline works out. And I gotta say too, like I have never in my life put genuine effort into being in a relationship, and I'm generally like half on, half off for my entire life. In about 3 years, I will meet one person and they'll just kind of automatically like flow to me, and I will kind of like get it, and we'll be like, yeah, oh, yeah, let's be in a relationship. And it's just really simple. And I mean, of course, we do courting, we do dating and all that, and it takes a long time before we're like really in a relationship or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that part goes quick. I just mean the attraction's like pretty immediate, and it's like pretty self-evident, and it just like we're completing each other's sentences, I kind of mean. And I've often had them describe me as like seeing me as magnetic, which is like funny to me because like I do not like think of myself in that way. It's like that's a great thing. Thank you, ladies. Like whatever. Oh gosh. And that's a clue. I'm pretending I'm kind of playing dumb right now, but that's like a give, you know. There's something to that, you know. And but these, so to make a long story short, they end like I've been in good relationships that were just normal and healthy, and they kind of just like, you know, some things just don't work out in terms of like your goals and your basic chemistry and stuff like that. Like that's happened, and it's not really traumatizing for me. It's like it sucks, you know, for both of us, and then we kind of move forward and go through some bullshit, and then we move on, you know, and we're both good. Like that happens to me quite a good amount. But these ones hit me like really hard. Like when these ones, it's like a really deep thing, and it's really like spiritual, and it feels, I take on aspects of the other person. Like right now my camera's mounted on a stuffed animal, which I have because of like one of the people I dated who taught me how to use stuffed animals. I want to do a video on that. I want to explain that to you. It's not gross or anything. It's actually quite cute. She got me saying cute a lot too. These ones every time trick me. I'm Wile E. Coyote here. Like they will cheat on me. Like what? Yeah, I mean, just like, it's not that, you know, I mean, I know that stuff exists, you know, but I just that it was this person that did that. These people appear to me to be extremely moral people. Like I don't know how else to explain it. Like they like. In real life, they do like charitable things and care and demonstrate care for like everyone around them and like their family. And I just, it's just with relationship partners. Before it comes to an end, they reveal it to me, like little by little. They kind of like have this like breadcrumbs of clues, like where they reveal to me that they've done this to other guys in the past, and they're like, it could happen to you. And it's like, it's kind of this like thing hanging over you. And then they do it. It's like the first time it happened to me, it was like so devastating. And every time it's just horrible. And it's the sort of thing that my mom did. It's harder. I look for the best examples, you know, the best of the best. And every time it happens, I get compelled to do art, and I get into this really positive place, and I get in shape, and I get like really intrigued intellectually and spiritually, and I'm just like a glutton for heartbreak. It propels me. I just want to get revenge by being like the happiest dude there ever was. I just fucking love it. And this recent thing with Celesta was just it was the biggest long con you could ever imagine. Like, we fucking meditated together. We did Zen. We did breath work, you know? Fucking A. So, but like, the point is, what I realized is this is me doing this. This isn't like, I mean, I full kudos, like full acknowledgement to these people who've done these things that they themselves acknowledge are terrible to me. But I'm the one that generates this. It's happened too many times to be a coincidence. And I'm not shutting my heart off to love or anything like that. Like, that would be letting the terrorists win. I am more loving than you can possibly imagine. I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi of love. I'm brimming with it. I can't be stopped. I am so grateful for everything that's ever happened to me. That it wasn't anything serious. That I wasn't afflicted physically or mentally, just emotionally. And these emotional blows have been staggered out in just such a way where I was always totally capable of handling it. In every case, it made me a better person, morally. And that is what I want to share with the world. So to me, this is the same thing as making a rock opera or writing a science fiction novel. This is me expressing what I really think. I'm unloading that because it's not just my responsibility, it's your responsibility too. We're in this together. That's what we're talking about. Because I don't want your sympathy for any of that. I'm not looking for that. It's not an apology to say that, like, this is why I'm bad at making videos, or like why they don't show up on time, or like, you know, why I can't afford better equipment. That's not what this is about. I'm talking about this stuff because the bell tolls for thee, sir. Because you've all been through something. And if you haven't, it's gonna happen. And just, you know, just be cool. Like, get through it, you know? We're here for you. We're here with you. Don't forget about us. That's the most important thing. Just don't forget we're out here and we care about you. And you can reach out if you need anything. And that's what we're good for. That's about what, you know, we can do for one another. In a lot of ways, in the way that I can tell stories, I hope to be able to almost get to the point of it being like visceral to you, to where it relates to something that you really know, and you can see why integral theory is so important. That's what, and Unthink Me isn't just integral theory, it's the skeleton. Unthink Me is a story, and there's like a lot of stuff that I really want to do with it. But there's a lot of other things that I feel like, you know, now that this is at a level where people do kind of get who I am a little bit and kind of get what integral theory is. And I think there's kind of like an actual audience who's past the level of just like understanding like what the stages are or like what quadrants are, you know. I'm just saying, like, for those of us who are feeling like this meta-paradigmatic thing has like a kind of centrality to it, and a centrality morally for like understanding the moral issues of our time and the personal cognitive dissonance that we have and the cultural cognitive dissonance that we have. Okay, let's say I buy into all that. Like, now I want to live more integral, but I am still me coming into that. Like, how do I do this more? Like, I'm supposed to have all these modules that I do, but I work at a factory 12 hours a day. Like, how do I do the integral thing? Like, I'm, you know, for example, like, I've been that person. I'm not that person now. That is a central question, right? How can we actually do anything with this knowledge? I do have ideas and thoughts about like how this channel, I mean, as like a larger entity than the channel, how something can be kind of formed here. But at this stage, like I said, you know, I move really slow with things. Like, at this stage, I'm just trying to become like someone who exists and who does integral theory well. Having this channel going as it is very satisfying for me, and I hope you understand that. Like, that I don't need it to be anything more than it is. I'm just like, as far as all the artistic stuff I've done, this has been much more gratifying and just like a lot less frustrating and like less effort, and like the response I've gotten has been just so gratifying and pleasing, and it's just a big part of like why I want to do anything good in the world, you know, like why I find my existence satisfying and meaningful. It's made me feel like I'm doing something right. And I'm just, thus far, I've just been kind of like trying to figure out how it can stay right, like how I can get back to like doing the thing that like works and just kind of stay on it. You've seen me called out a lot for my memory, and I'll be the first to admit, like, I think I'm honestly like not very good at remembering stuff in general, and I'm not like a heavy drinker or like, I'm just kind of bad at remembering things. So I do my best, and I can promise you that like I portray things correctly, thematically and in terms of like tone and the feel of his situation. Like I'm really good at that. Sorry, my tomatoes light cut out. In terms of like the specific sequence and dates and like times of things, I'm like pretty bad at that. And sometimes I like forget events or like put the wrong person in it. Not like a person who's like fundamental to understanding it, but just like one of my friends happened to be like another one, like stuff like that. I get stuff like that wrong a lot. I went through a breakup, which this is Jet I'm talking about. She was really fun. I liked her a lot. One night we were playing cards together. We were playing canasta, and I still have her painting of the Four of Pentacles. That was a really meaningful thing. I'm trying to ascend through the pentacles, even though I don't really, tarot is like whatever, but I'm doing that, and that'll come into play quite a bit. But anyways, we were playing canasta, and I kept insisting that we have like consistent rules. Like she was using her grandma's house rules, but like they kept changing in ways that favored her, and I just thought that I like was calling it out. I'm like, well, what are the actual rules? Like, let's get the like. Do you want to use the official rules, or do you want to just like call it out and then we can play by that? And this drove her into a frenzy, and she dumped me. And I like was like, what the hell? Like, because I'm always like that. I always do that. Like, I just wanted to, like, I was enjoying playing your card game that I'd like never heard of. It was great. It was like the time of my life. And then she ran downstairs, and I had asked her to move in, although we weren't like really at that level. I just happened to have like an available space, and she was looking for a place to live. But that the heater kicked on, and I'm just gonna keep going. But yeah, so the following day, she received a phone call that her mother was terminally ill with cancer, and so I held her, and she cried a lot, but we were through, and we never talked about it again. And I don't know if one of my roommates that ended up being a psychopath like said anything to her. It was very confusing, but like she just kind of wrote me off like pretty hardcore. That fueled me. Like, again, I got into this really happy place where I was up in Vancouver, and I lived with these people I didn't even really know that well. Like, they were fine. They were great. We had fun together. They had a tortoise. The tortoise would walk in the lawn with a little balloon wrapped around it so I wouldn't lose him. I did lose him. I lost him one summer, and he was gone the whole summer, and I felt so bad, but he showed up. I found him again. He had probably had just been hiding under the porch the whole time or something, but I had really looked for him. He might have wandered off somewhere, but it was really cool. I got their turtle back after I lost him. Hamilton. Yeah, Bartleby was... I've had 2 tortoises in my life living in my house. So anyways, the point is, Jet did that, and it left me kind of feeling traumatized, and that got me into coding. All of a sudden, I was super into coding. My original thought was it was about AI. It was about like I wanted to create a spider consciousness in a computer. And that was like, so I started out with that goal, and I just started getting more and more into like what normally people are trying to do with coding. And so I spent a whole summer in Seattle just training myself in coding. Like, I kind of see it as my own boot camp. Like, I pretty much spent every single day, all day, just doing coding related stuff. Like whether it was reading documentation or working on projects or going out to meetups to talk to other people about it. It was pretty much a whole summer like that, and that was sort of my lifestyle for about 5 years, I would say. I was asked to come and work for a cannabis company by a friend of mine, and so I said yes, because I was looking for work over there anyways, and there was like the possibility that it could evolve into like coding work, and it was like, okay. And I got into a spot largely due to him that I was actually able to code for the company, and I did a lot of work for the company, like making, pretty much rendering out an entire like software system and database and server, and that integrated with pretty much all the activities that the company was doing, and it also reconciled all that information we had internally with the state regulatory agencies system. So it had to call APIs and automate. We had to automate like transactions with that system. And then we also had like a SAP like system for like some of the higher level stuff. And so that all had to be like reconciled as well. And I would create reports of all the data that would go to all the leadership for decision making. So that was kind of what I did at the cannabis job after starting out as a trimmer and doing that for a while. And then kind of like I was the print station guy. I got that whole process kind of going and normalized. I trained a replacement, but wasn't considered in a management position, and was a pretty integral part of that company's kind of launch. But I resigned from that job, and the reason was, as documented, was for ownership of this channel. Because I'm not even joking, because in the NDA that I signed, I read it very carefully, and I don't know if anyone else, including the people who had me sign it, did that, but it gave them ownership of any intellectual property or like artifact or broadcast that I create. And it doesn't say that references the company or anything like that. It's like just straight up, like anything. I'm like, I'm a songwriter. I write fiction. I have a published novel. That's more threatening to me than it would generally be. And obviously it's in there because they don't want their proprietary like procedures and information like leaked by former employees, like duh. But they didn't do their work in making sure that that's what the contract like specified and that it wasn't like ridiculous. It did give them ownership of this YouTube channel, like on paper. And so I asked them to, they fixed it eventually, but they kept mine. And so I asked them to rescind that and give me the one that everyone else signed. And because my manager would have to talk to someone like above him, and that would be like awkward and like it would make him look bad, and he would be like questioning them, he refused to do that. And I brought it to HR, and HR refused to deal with the higher ups as well. But internally, like they were like, oh, this, like the problem is that Adam's like throwing a fit about something ridiculous. Oh, and I don't see it that way. Like those higher ups were like very threatening, and I understand like why people were worried about them. And so I realized that I was in this kind of like ridiculous Simpsons-y situation where like grown children have just assumed authority over pretty competent people who aren't allowed to do anything reasonable. Of course, in cannabis, like the criminality is rampant, the unethical behavior. It just, I mean, these, you know, they're all, everyone who's great at growing or processing used to be a criminal. And not to say that I think it's just for cannabis to be criminal, but not everyone commits crimes because they feel like it. It's like a certain kind of attitude, and that's the kind of attitude that in a corporate environment manifests in like pretty gross behaviors that affect the product and the brand. I found all that rather disagreeable, and so in my resignation, I also cited like some pretty glaring things to me that just I was just expressing like why working there brought me down, like why I didn't feel like I was contributing to something positive. And I named terms like that would be acceptable, predominantly that contract would be changed because I was very serious about this channel, and I still am. Now, that was an awesome job, and it was a real setback that I didn't stick with it. I mean, I'll be straight with you. And that, like, you know, I was given the opportunity to pursue like certifications. I should have done that, but I had rather a lot of work to do there, and I was getting rather depressed as well. So I like the time that I left. I see both sides of it for sure. But anyways, that was like a big event. And so then I was like, well, okay, so now I got to go do something else. I'm going to try and be a coder now, like with these people who like probably won't give me a good reference now that I've done that. And a lot of my work, like the ownership was kind of like, I don't think I'm very credited for the work that I did, I'd say in general. I don't think it was clear to everybody how much of that system I made. I probably wouldn't imagine that most of them would list me as a good reference, and I would say that I have a pretty negative opinion of the company in general, and just due to that I became very politically motivated. I started thinking a lot about like how power structures work and like why some of the best people in the world like seem to be incapable of doing the things that cause you to like succeed in today's world. And I mean, fair question from both sides, right? Like that's a totally legitimate question to be asking of yourself and of your culture. But I think mostly of yourself. It's like, I don't see myself as a stubborn person. I really don't. I think that I have a particular type of mind or personality or something, and I can't stand to not learn. Life is heavenly for me as long as I feel like I'm learning. And I kind of just cling to that. And so when I felt like I was in a position that I couldn't really move forward or upward from, and I knew that I was just, there's a ceiling there that's made up of like arrogant, crazy people that are just that are hilarious and awesome. It's a funny world. It's a funny world, but like I'm not trying to get political, but I mean, the news. You're seeing that, right? Like, why do crazy, weird people end up like making all the decisions? I guess at that moment I kind of asked myself, like, what am I capable of? What can I do? And I thought a lot about it, and I'm like, well, I've put a lot of time into learning how to talk. There's kind of a Dunning-Kruger, that's where like you fail to appreciate the different levels people are at. It's really easy for me to sit here and talk to you. You're a camera sitting on top of a stuffed horse in front of a computer. It's very easy for me to do that because I've done it so much. I wanted to do this in like a sort of more serious voice, and I also wanted to do it in a more genuine voice. Like, this isn't me doing a character like at all. This is actually how I am right now. And I'm trying not to be meandering, but I'm really trying to give you this like perspective of this intertwining, like relationship stuff going bad, creating art going bad, relationship stuff, and how I've had this like unending cycle of like really, really awesome relationships that are wonderful and I treasure, but then they explode in my face, and then I start making art and I'm just so alive and so full of like joy and creativity, and then that becomes attractive, and and it just goes on, and it's like, what I want to do is I want to break that cycle now, because it's ramping up, and like next time it'll be like gory, I think. Like, I'm going to put my foot down. So Jet herself, like, one of the things that I found really appealing about her, again, she's the stuffed animal one that dumped me over canasta rules, and then went back to her room in my house and found out that her mother was dying, and we never talked about it again. She's so cool. She's so wonderful. She's so funny. Really amazing. And one of the things that I really found attractive about her was that she did a similar thing to me, where I told you the story of Poupette, who cheated on me, and then over the course of becoming friends again over a year, we started going out again, and then she cheated on me again, once again, with a friend of mine that I knew. She's hilarious. She's awesome. What the fuck is my point? Oh, like, right. Because that split me in two, weirdly. Like, I allowed me to really see kind of my my anima, I guess you'd call it. Like, I don't know, the sexual segmentation of my spirit, I guess. And I had always kind of been transgender or even kind of femme in my self-image, and sometimes in my outward presentation, where I felt like it would be socially appropriate. I generally tend to do that, and I enjoy it, and I consider it preferable to expressing male. So I'm very gender fluid. That turned into, at this point, at this splitting with Poupette, I fell in love with myself. And Emma Watson from Harry Potter, I think her status is self-partnered, or at least it was when I was looking it up. And that's how I feel like I am. I realized that I can be my shoulder to cry on, that I can breathe life into myself. I can put a spring in my step. I can make myself feel happy and whole, and feel like the meaning of my life can be, I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for us. That if I feel that for myself, it allows me to feel that for anyone. Because if I feel that way for myself, if I love myself, then I can trust myself that if I'm genuine with another person, that it's their problem if that's unacceptable. That I think one of the things that I really value in life is that I feel like I can be real. that's I have that right, and no, like it's punished a little bit, but I feel like I can do that and get away with it. Again, my superpower, James and I, our superpower is that we don't fucking care what you think. Not like not like a high schooler, like not an insecure, like I care deeply what you think. Like it's really important, and it's really guiding, and it really tells me a lot. It gives me a lot of info. In writing groups, there's this kind of low-key rule that, like, if someone finds a problem in your work, they're totally right that there's a problem, but they're absolutely wrong about what it is. To be criticized, I've been through every possible, like, humiliation at this point socially. Like, I don't know. I'm just a big goofball, and it doesn't bother me to be perceived in a negative way, I guess, anymore. So if I'm trying something out and I'm being the wrong kind of way, and you tell me, I appreciate it. I thank you. Like, you're fucking right, you know? But I'm still just gonna do all these different experiments, and you can't stop me too. So it's like there's two sides to that, buddy. So I'm telling you about all these terrible things that happened to me, but it's to say that this is my inspiration. This is what it's all about. I think for anyone, right? Like, we're inspired. We're on a hero's journey because there's something at stake, right? Integral theory is sort of the underdog. I'm rooting for integral theory. I think it's underlooked, underpraised, undernoticed. There's all these people talking about, like, integral theory-ish stuff, and it's like, hey, guess who did that like a super long time ago? That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm not like, it's not to the point where I have like an axe to grind about it. It's to the point where I'm like, hey guys, like, listen, integral theory, like, check it out. Like, are you into it? Like, this is me doing my best. You know, I don't have endless resources to dedicate to this, but I'm definitely putting my whole heart into it. I can swear to fucking God about that. I'm very serious about it, and I get that it's like not a serious thing. So it's like it's both of those things. You know, I'm out here taking it seriously, so you don't have to. All right, I got this. Don't you worry. I'm a goofball. I'm gonna tell you my story, and you're gonna take it the way you'll take it. But I can take it. Don't you worry about me. I'm doing great. This is a total acting gig, acting like my authentic self, trying my best, you know, to be in character, because that's what I want to put out is my authentic self. That's who I want to actually be for you and for everyone. Like, and I want to get used to being that way because I like how it is to be that way. To me, spirituality is inevitable. It's just, it's like a thing that, like, if you don't care about it, if you're not aware of it, if you think it's bullshit, like, you need to, like, you're misunderstanding what it is. I think it's just basically being more awake, and not in some weird way that disagrees with what you think, but I mean, in whatever the fuck you think being awake is. That's spiritual in nature, just seeing the underlying nature of the reality that we are sharing and caring about that. I mean, you can do it with a grin, you can do it as a dancer and a singer. That's kind of that's my jam too. But there's a seriousness to it too, because it really does have, like, if people see reality properly, if people see reality in a way that is up to date and comprehensible to a human being, integral theory can assist a person in reaching that. And if they can do it, then they'll get out of belief systems that are generating this, like, crazy reaction to reality that so many people are having, right? Like, I mean, is that a disagreeable thing to say? Like, how many times a day does someone you know say, like, wow, that was so crazy, that's crazy, you know? Like, I mean, life is crazy, sure, but that word shouldn't really mean, like, mentally insane, like schizophrenic, right? Like, the news shouldn't look like mental illness, right? Spirituality is this weird thing that it has always been alien to me, you know, to approach it as though it were like, it's not some story, but it is like the actual leaving the story and coming to reality. It's like waking up to the nature of what this is, and not pushing it away, not saying, like, well, I got to do, like, I don't have I mean, I can't focus on that right now. Like, but no. Focus on what you're focusing on. That's correct. You're doing it right. I believe in you. Focus more on it. Like, focus harder on it. Like, look around it. Like, we need to be constantly in a process of retraining ourselves to be more aware, to be more self-aware, and to be more collectively aware. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to do. I don't know if I'm any good at it. Like, but you'll see me develop at it. This is what I do. This is how I do it. I'll get better at this. Quitting the job and cannabis, and I'm kind of thinking like integral theory. This is okay. I had the vision for like 12 stages of consciousness and all these, like that would be the video. Like, I said before I even started the channel, I was like, okay, if I make a video on integral on the altitudes, it'll get 10,000 views, and it's got a lot more than that now. But it actually reached that point, and that was kind of like, wow. Because, you know, you don't know when you start a YouTube channel if anyone at all will watch it. And generally they don't. Like, I mean, especially if it's kind of like the sort of thing I do. If it's integral theory, or it's like badly lit, or like the audio is weird, or it's like 10 hours long for no reason. Like, if you do stuff like that, you don't really anticipate that anyone at all will pay attention to it. And that's totally fair. But I did that, and I did a lot of stuff where I was like, I tried out a lot of different ideas. I tried some ambitious stuff that I didn't accomplish, and then I kind of rolled back to this thing where it was like hand-drawn figures, and so that was when I started on Think Me, and I made those tutorials, and I did like a lot of talking about integral kind of casual things, because it was really hard to get it all together to do anything more ambitious. So I always just ended up rolling back to this like really simple thing. And nobody at all watched any of that, even the one that's like really huge now, that probably was the first thing you saw. So that kind of went in its own rhythm, and as it did so, I met this gal in the town, a little small town in the middle of nowhere, owned by like robber barons, you know, a little town in the middle of nowhere that I just went to grow cannabis and be a coder, and I succeeded at that more or less, and then I kind of shit the bed and resigned from that and was gonna leave town. But I stuck around for a while and started on Think Me. That's what happened. I had a lot of ambitions for it, but this gal opened up a yoga studio in town. I stopped by, did some yoga. I came in because I was curious about getting a job there. I was looking for a job in town if I was going to stay in town, and we hit it off, you know, damn quickly. I kept it like professional until I realized she wanted to like be friends, and then we were hanging out as friends, and then she was pushing to get romantic, and I was like, whoa, you know, I was like, let's take it slow. But she was really interested, and I was really intrigued. Like, it just felt really right to me too. And so I went for it, and I wanted to, one of the first times I went to her yoga classes, I've been to a lot of yoga classes. I really like the way she does yoga. She's awesome at it, and she's really serious about it. You know, she treats it like that it's to help people, that it's to help people to feel better. I think she always has kind of her finger on the pulse of that when she does her classes. And I think when she was teaching, that was when she was most real, most alive, most herself. Probably the most of herself that I ever saw, honestly, although I wish it weren't the case. And it was one of the first sessions she read this poem, I believe. It was this or something like it, but I'd like to read it for you. She let go. Without a thought or a word, she let go. She let go of the fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons. Wholly and completely, without hesitation or worry, she just let go. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She let go of all the anxieties that kept her from moving forward. She let go of the planning and all of the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good, and it wasn't bad. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. And I said, that was beautiful. And she said, oh, really? Thanks. And it was just in this book. I was just reading this book. Just reading this book. Yeah, you were just reading this book. This is how they foreshadow things, you know. This is how, like, I should have seen it. I should have known this is a pattern. This is a thing that connects, you know. But I'm not saying she did that. I'm saying this is how it works with me. There's rules to the way that my story works. It's written by like a particular voice. You know, it rhymes like poetry. Every step of the way there was this like foreshadowing like that, and it was so weird because like every, you know, the other step, you know, the 99% of it was just like, never felt any of this before. I can't, this is totally new ground to me. And here I am like in my late 30s, you know, having married myself, taking after Jet. We both married ourselves, and that was one of the things that really got me into her, and that's one of the things I took with me, and I still feel self-partnered. And so I'm bringing that happiness. I'm bringing that happiness into a new thing, inviting it and welcoming it and trying to make it into this healing, growing thing. And so is she. She's so into healing and growing and being real and just presence and consciousness. And it was real. It was actually love. Like this was the love of my life. I would have married her, of course. I wanted to be more of an active role in the life of her child or daughter, and I wanted to provide for them, and I was serious. I wanted to stay in Michigan the rest of my life, stay there and build a cabin, and, you know, she can do the yoga, I can do the teaching, and hopefully we could get by in that way. And she was like all for it. We talked about it all the time. That was our fantasy together. We dreamed about it, and we were very open about that being what we wanted ultimately after, you know, a good long while of getting to that point. But there was also this constant thread of like, I just hope I don't fuck it up, you know. That's what she would say. I just hope I don't fuck it up. I came to learn that her parents were extremely abusive and neglectful of her. They would hit the kids for no reason. They would like leave them without things that they needed. They're just weird people. They're not, there's nothing, I've met them. They're great. They're fine. You know, you wouldn't see them as bad people or anything. They were just, they didn't know how to raise kids, and nobody made them do it the right way. So all of those, they're all pretty wacky. And she had done so much work to get out of that, and she'd gone so far. But still, just like all these women I'm listing that are like my story, there's a screw loose with relationships. It's a lot of energy there. We're talking really like fundamental psychosexual stuff, you know. It results in this sleeper assassin thing. It's called splitting. They become exactly the perfect person for me, and I become exactly the perfect person for them, because it's whatever I am actually is what they want, and they become whatever they perceive me to want. There were a lot of like tiny clues that like now I would recognize, but she was the best of the best. Like she's 007. Like I've never seen this kind of work. I felt like I could have caught him this time, but this was a real doozy, and it was real. We were genuinely in love. Her too. This isn't imaginary. This is the one that I call real Celesta. It's a pun because it was fake Celesta. The real Celesta's out there in the world. I don't no idea what she's up to, and it kind of freaks me out to think about it. The one I call real Celesta is the fake one. It's the one that I interacted with. It was the one that was manufactured to be perfect for me for a medium-term length of time, and slowly threaten more and more to destroy that, and to, in so doing, destroy me to whatever extent possible. And then getting deeper and deeper to the point where it's harder and harder to kind of back out from that. And then it happens. It happens as big as it can at the most inconvenient time. This one really took me out. It's like because I don't, I'm still completely in love with her. I'm still in love with all of them. I don't fall out of love with people. I'm a vampire. That's what I told her, and she never cared what I meant. It's like actually like not kidding. I'm a vampire. I don't stop. That love that I still feel doesn't have an outlet, so I make music. I sing and dance. In my opinion, it's entirely to your benefit to receive that from me, because that's what it is. It's just love. It really is. This is what I'm doing. And receiving it isn't like being as lame as I'm being right now. Or, you know, I just mean like watching it. I just mean like saying something goofy or subscribing. You know, I see all that and I go, yeah, I love you too. Namaste. Just one day, you know, this has been foreshadowed a lot. So at this point, I was in a pretty negative place. I was smoking a lot of weed and I was not happy in my job. And we had moved into a place together, a place I'm still paying rent and utilities at because I had to bail. Like we all bailed on it. And I just received a text at work. Hey, I moved out. I don't live there anymore and we're not getting back together. A text message. And sure enough, I went home and all of her stuff was gone. And I knew that she left me for someone else. That's just why she would leave me. And I was correct. He was trying to start a religious cult. He was an alternative kind of Christian. They entered into what she described as like a master-student sexual relationship pretty immediately. She was unresponsive to any communication for weeks. I threatened to go to the police and she immediately called, and then I went down a list of questions that I had just concerning like whether they had drugged her or whether she was safe, and whether just things I needed to know, like about her daughter, about like if she was in contact with some people, you know, that could help her, like just that kind of stuff. Like I had to know. So I was going to the police. She immediately called, why the fuck are you going to the police? And I mean, it's mental illness. She had a physical illness and she had slight mental illness, but it seemed to escalate due to the intimacy of our relationship and the kind of pressures that she felt just due to being in like such a serious relationship, I think. And so that squirted out into this like strong need to be immediately swept away by someone who's kind of the opposite of me in many ways. And so it would be someone who would be completely unacceptable to me. And when that happens, the splitter devalues now. Instead of putting you on a pedestal and imagining you to be perfect, you then become like kind of the villain or the like ultimate like toxic person or just loser. And so the whole thing is really, really humiliating because she's, you know, she's now, according to her, like very pleased with the sexual like master studenthood, you know, with this new person. It's really exciting and all of her problems are solved and everything's perfect. And, you know, I'm just over here like wishing that she hadn't done that and just like wishing that I could have had a chance to even like talk to her at all or make things better, and that we had like dealt with it in an adult way, break up like in a respectful way. And clearly, like we had talked about it before, like she felt also that I was entitled to that, like that would be a fair like rules, right? But it wasn't like following the rules. It was like she ran off and jumped the fence just to get away from the intensity, I guess, of a vampire. And so, yeah, I was extremely angry and frustrated, and I cried nonstop, and I quit that job too. I got, you know, so little what would technically be like closure out of all that. Like finally, right before I left town, we sat down together at a bar and I unloaded. I mean, I was ready to go. I nailed it. I knocked it out of the park. Like I asked her every question I wanted to ask. I told her everything I wanted to say, and I feel really resolved in how I represented myself. And I think it's really sad, the choices that she made. And I think it's sad not because it's less choice than I imagined. There's a lot of, I see the abuse from her parents in that, and I see that sense of, you know, never being able to accomplish anything, the same kind of thing that I feel. And then, but she's also, you know, got her family problems, and she's got one thing that I don't have is really like health problems, like really threatening health problems. And I think she gave up. And she was always saying she was like afraid of giving up. And I think she just straight up gave up. Yeah, I would have done anything for it to have not gone in that direction. But, you know, once it did, it's just, I can't keep wanting that. Like, that's not acceptable to me. No matter how much I love someone, I can't just allow them to destroy my self-esteem or my self-worth, and to torture me and laugh about it and feel good about it and be aroused by it. Like, I feel so cheated in the sense that I gave so much of myself to that, and that I believed in that, and that's what it became. I think that's the most disgusting part of the feeling. But I mean, what do you do with that, right? Do you go and beat the shit out of everyone? You know, like, of course that, like, yeah, of course that crossed my mind, you know, and harm myself. And I thought that's just giving them what they want, honestly. This was what went through my head. And I don't want to give them what they want. I want to fight back. And this is what I do. I unthink me. Like, I'm here to rethink all of this silly bullshit that we're doing. This silly, stupid fucking bullshit that, like, we're all participating in, and just like, oh, like, this is just what you do, dude. Like, whatever. Like, suck my fucking ass. You just do the right thing. You just do smart, healthy, fix things, help people stuff. And that's so obvious to you if you've suffered through this much. I'm dealing with this like emergency situation with my loved ones, right? Which is my whole world. Like, my loved ones is all I had. You know, her and her Celesta and her child, and, you know, her friends, and none of these people ever spoke to me again. So all of a sudden, I was free to do whatever I choose. At this point, I don't even care about me. If I went 2 months without eating, and that might sound like an exaggeration, it's certainly not a brag. I don't think it was a good thing. And several months after that, barely eating anything. But I was so grief-stricken. Like, it was really hard for me. Like, I remember saying, you know, to myself in secret that, like, man, if that relationship was everything to me. It was like everything I wanted, everything that it was my plans, you know, it was all my plans for the future. I was just trying to make that dang relationship work because I wanted it so bad. You know, I was so happy with it. It just made me happy. I was just satisfied. I loved her. It was awesome. Such a beautiful person, such a wonderful, beautiful person. So smart and strong, very strong. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine, truly. And thus, we're just not meant for each other, you know? And, you know, y'all watching this, I'm 41, I think, something like that. Yeah, some people kind of assume I'm younger. I've seen some shit. I walk with a limp. Like, I don't talk about things just because they're dark. This is like in service of saying why I do this. Immorality makes me do this. I don't know how else to respond to it. I'm not like a competitive person. I'm a learner. I like to learn. And it seems to me like there's, in all my searches, you know, I search for like how you really do things, or like what things really mean, or what they do, or like, you know, read the books by the people who are thought to be the smartest people, because then you might like get what the smartest people think about, that kind of thing. I have the capacity. It's possible for me to communicate that lore, that deep lore, you know, that perennial wisdom in a way that people can generally get what I'm talking about, and people won't immediately be turned off by the presentation of it or the character of it. Like, I'm as real as you're gonna see on YouTube. Like, I'm holding as little back. Like, I'm so not like stretching anything or like, you know, making anything up or I'm generally underplaying. I'm a terrible storyteller. Like, and there's a reason that I'm doing that. I'm you. I'm just like you. I'm just a normal person. I was a child and I grew up and I was taught to do all this stuff. And then I run it up against immorality. I run into this stuff that I can't believe I'm seeing. When bad things happen to me, the natural response, it's very natural to me, is just to say like, well, what can I do with this? And so I suddenly think like, oh my God, I'm free. Like, I don't have to buy a house now. I don't have to worry about like anything. I have no attachments. And so I start calling up all the people I'm really close with and all the people that I know that I can trust. And I just tell them this story, like I've told you just now, basically, that, hey, you know, this really crazy thing happened to me, and I'm actually weirdly, like, I starved myself for 2 months, and it was sort of like a cleansing fast, and I just see myself all of a sudden like, oh my God, I have like so much time right now, and I don't want to waste a second of it. And I'm so full of love, and I'm so grateful, and I just can't wait to get to doing the Unthink Me as hard as I can, really. It's what makes me happy. I'm singing and dancing. I told her, this is what I'm going to do. I texted her that, and she made fun of it. But this is what I'm doing. This is how I make lemonade. Bad things happen to me, and you'll see a stand-up comedy routine. You'll see a tutorial video. You'll see me playing video games and cussing. And isn't that a rational way to do this whole thing? Like, but I'm never gonna do that again. Okay, this is a topic to go into. I figured it's me generating this. I'm doing this, and I get it now. I thought I got it, but this one I said was the best of the best. Nobody's gonna trump that. And I'm also like, I've learned like, I'm correct when I suspect things. I'm correct to question things. I'm correct to take things slowly. I'm correct that to make me happy, we have to be friends for quite a while, and we have to go through some bad times to see how we react to that. And we have to know one another's history and general, the way we go about relationships. And we need to really know all that before we're even wanting to proceed with anything romantic. I mean, I know that's boring. I know that's boring, but you know, what do you think lasts? This is what I realized. So I went and called all those people that lasted, that stuck with me through all this crazy stuff. I've worn so many hats. I've been so many different people. And and some of these people have stuck with it. And so there's a pattern there. There's a soul tribe going on there. As I was dying of this is when we started the podcast. Like, the first podcast we recorded was probably like the week she left. And once we started doing the podcast, it started the algorithm started routing traffic to the channel. So then that video actually hit the original goal of 10,000 views, and like is probably up around like 80,000 now. And it's not even that good of a video. It's just, I'm just saying, like, this was the synchronicity of it. To me, it like sticks out when things like that happen, because I had this vision of it, and that vision came true when I was at my lowest. And it's like, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I started a Discord because like some tutorial said to do that. And then I realized like what all you can do with Discord. And I was like, holy shit. And we got like a community going, and one person in particular, like, they'd watched all my videos, and we'd stay up late, like talking on voice chat and in messages, and just saying like really encouraging and positive things, and like getting to know each other and feeling like this really deep connection. And Like that thing was like, I tried to express this to the person, but like I think it was kind of lost in translation a little bit. But like it was like a lifesaver, you know, like this was just some random person who had found my work intriguing. This work, like, can you believe it? And it turned into this like really what seems like a really legitimate friendship, and like we really do get each other kind of in such a short time. And that just like was such a counterbalance to the shock to my self system, you know, the sense of like I had regulated myself in a way that required another person's inputs to feel good. You know, I'm just talking like on a really like emotional, physical level. And so I was really, really sad all the time, and I couldn't stop thinking about her and just like wondering about her and worrying about her and being scared for her. And I'd go off on bike rides and I'd sing to myself and find out my house had been vandalized, and I went out and did karaoke all the time, and I was so happy. I was so happy. It felt so meaningful. It felt like, hey, guy, like you don't just get to happy ending. Come on, you got work to do. What do you think? You're old? Like, no, you got to worry about that later. Right now, you need to be shaken up. You need to be fucking pissed because this is real. Like, what's it? Like, of course it is. Like, what do you not want to be in the thing that's real? Like, I do. This is it. It's a real problem we're facing as a society here, and I'm available. I've become available. I'm ready to awaken. I'm awakening. I'm there. Like, come on, let's rock. Like, awaken. Let's go. In that time, I reached out, you know, to all these people, just people that I thought back and, you know, I still have really positive, you know, opinion of that person. I think they're really neat. Why didn't I explore them more? I'm curious about them. You know, they're out there in this world right now. What are they up to? I started peering into them. They started peering into me. They heard about what happened. You know, they were seeing if I was okay, and finding out that I was like more than okay. Like I've never felt so healed and transformed, beautified, I guess I would say, in my whole life. Like I'm feel confident. That's the way I've never felt before. I feel confident because I don't care about being perceived negatively. I think that's how I would describe it. Like, I don't feel myself pressuring myself to be a certain way. I'm very happy being single. It was just that was a real blow to me, and I'm still very happy being single. It's fine. I'm dating. It's not. I'm not ready for anything serious, but I'm so okay with things just being friendship. I just want to dance. I don't need anyone to make me feel any particular way. I'm more than happy to share. If you like the kind of thing that I am, I feel like I share very freely. And it's like, I hope like I'm kind of demonstrating here. And so I wanted to tell the story of the lovely, beautiful person that gave me this awesome magnetic bracelet that I wear in a lot of my podcasts, because it makes me feel good to have been given such a sweet gift and such a great thought. You know, I never really got to say goodbye to her. I never got to get in, you know, my points about anything. It was a jump over the fence situation. And what I want to shoot back with is just the same thing I've always said, that always here for you. And I thank you for being with me. That's my whole narrative. That's my whole mythology. Just thank you for being with me. And if you get that, if that makes sense to you, that's what I'm talking about, like walking with a limp. And this is the draw of the spiritual path, is that there's a world just beneath the surface that's really constraining what we're capable of seeing and knowing and understanding. And the sorts of opportunities that we take advantage of rather than avoiding, and the sorts of social energies. I don't like the word energies, but like, social patterns that we tolerate or we don't know how to get rid of. Like how, like we keep attracting these patterns that are not reflective of our nature, but are in some way like parasitic to it, or toxic to it, in spite of every attempt to appear otherwise. This is what motivates me. This is what Unthink Me is about. At base, I mean, this is I'm saying this is sort of like the heart of it. And I describe integral theory as the skeleton of it, and I say it's a story. I feel like if I tell you that the reason I'm taking Unthink Me so seriously right now is as a means of artistic expression, because this partner that I was with left me for another man. That it makes me feel like I'm being genuine, and that it kind of establishes a certain like trust. Like maybe that surprises you that that's why I'm doing this. But that's where you get into like the phoniness of first tier perspectives, is people pretending that they're not motivated. Everybody is doing what they're doing because they're motivated by something. And so I just want to be straight up with you. It's the negative experiences that I have in my life influence me to create things that attempt to show people other ways of being. If everyone's getting cut up by thorns, I want to invent Band-Aids, or at least I want to discover someone who invented something that'll help with that. That's kind of what I'm doing. And it's so weird that everyone's not wearing those Band-Aids now. And so it's like, well, who's going to make that a thing? Like, why isn't it out there? It's like, well, here, I'll go talk about it. Does that help? Is that my role in the world? I mean, it's better than running out in front of a bunch of people and getting shot, like so many people have done. If this is my role to play in society, like I love it. I'll do it. Like on my own time for free is what I'm saying. Like not even as a job. I'm saying like, this feels to me like I'm doing something worth doing. And I'm sorry if you don't agree with that. I am trying my absolute best to create YouTube content that is entertaining and engaging and teaches perspectives that will help to heal the individual and culture and society. I mean, is that what you thought I was doing? But there's so much more to it, and I can't wait to share it with you. Honestly, I wanted to get that out. I wanted to tell that story. It's not the whole story. There's lots of beautiful, wonderful, like, just, I don't even know. Like, it was good. It was good. The whole thing. I needed the whole thing. The good parts were like, oh, duh, like they're good. Like, don't get rid of those. Don't forget about those. Don't pretend that they're like overshadowed by something horrible. They're just what they are. They're wonderful times, and I treasure them. And the kick in the nuts was called for. I set when I started the game, I set the challenge at like rather hard, but not like what the fuck hard. I set it at like rather hard, and this is like rather hard. And I'm baller. I'm GG no re over here. Good luck, man. I've got this. I took a licking, all right? And I am breaking the spiral, right? I'm taking that romantic mess out of the equation. And I want to see if I can stay passionately engaged with Unthink Me and keep making things that I approve of personally myself, that feel like progress to me. As I look for a job in coding, I have a job that's okay, and we're having fun, and she knows I'm looking for other work, and it's awesome. Great job, but it has nothing to do with these sorts of ambitions, and I want long-term plan is to code. So as I look for that work, I'm kind of using my business's website as like my portfolio. So I'm trying to get like a lot of birds down with one stone, but I'm going to have an actual website for this whole galaxy of things that kind of includes Unthink Me. And I'm working really hard on it, but you know, the more I do that, the less content you see, and that is only to speak of things that like have anything to do with this. You know, I'm also like I got responsibilities and stuff, so, and a lot of fun stuff happens. Like I'm not, so like, again, I'm free. I don't have any damn responsibility to anybody. I don't owe anybody 1 second of my time. If I go broke, that's my problem, right? This is my life. And so I can't really single-mindedly devote myself to meditation, nor can I devote myself single-mindedly to Unthink Me, nor can I really, I don't think I would be happy devoting myself single-mindedly to career. So I just, I'm going to keep juggling all these various balls and try to get better and better at doing it quicker and quicker. So that's how I do everything. As far as the relationships stuff goes, that I wanted to kind of tell all that backstory. Like over the course of about 4 videos, including this one, I kind of just told the basics of like what I would tell someone that I was like going to enter a long-term relationship with. So really personal stuff, and in this case, like really embarrassing stuff, you know, humiliating stuff, like, and I don't mind like talking more about that either. I just wanted to give you like this basic outline to say like, I've been motivated my entire life by like falling in love with people and having my heart broken. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think that's a pretty common pattern, but I pretty much at this point, I believe I've come to understand like the why of it, and like why I manufacture that for myself, and how I cannot do that. And that's a topic that I want to like have a whole, maybe even series on, because like it's not simple at all. It's to do with your relationship with yourself and your sexuality, and it gets into like a lot of different topics. So I wanted to that's like kind of my like relationship resume, to say like I am the biggest fuck up ever, you know. So I had to learn the hard way, and I really did learn the hard way, you know, with that stuff. I do feel like I have a lot of really good advice for people that if they like listen to it, like I think if they're struggling from this kind of thing, like really turbulent, like shocking, surprising relationships, I think I can really help with that. And I think I can help with a lot of other problems too, really, that I don't suffer from particularly. There's particularly a difficulty, I think, for males to kind of open up about this stuff, especially like in a public setting. Or I mean, I don't mean to like genderify it. It just, I feel like in my group, like it's hard to get anyone to really talk about their angst or whatever. Like I said, I was a Loveline addict. Like I talk about sex and relationships as much as possible. It's just fascinating to me. It's like a big part of what people are. You know, if you're just coming to this channel, not really knowing like anything about me, you might not assume that. Like, you might think I'm all about like real like deep lore nerdy stuff, which I am, but also really into interpersonal stuff and communication and relationships and romance. And I definitely want to talk about that, because I have just as many crazy ideas about like relationships as I do about any topic, you know. It's a fascinating realm of subjects, you know. Basically, my deal is I fall deeply, deeply in love with someone, and it's totally appropriate and it all seems right. And then I reenact like a psychodrama from my childhood, you know, like I enact the behavior that was modeled by my parents. And it's really tricky to see that. It's really baked into you, but you can do it. So I want to do a whole series on that, and I hope you like it. And it won't be a main thing. It'll just be like this, just simple. Like this isn't taking a lot of time. This is fun. This is like, I'm just taking a break right now. So this is how I want to do these ones. In the real guy, actual Adam, just talking, not lying about anything. Just literally saying, because I think that's the way to talk about relationships and sex. Like it should be pretty matter of fact. And I think when you get into problems is when it's not matter of fact, and you have to like really beat around the bush or kind of like talk in a different tone of voice. So all that stuff is to come. I hope it's not like way off base or like something that nobody wants to talk about in this circle. I get the sense that a lot of people do. So there goes my heater again. I guess I'll leave you guys at that. Namaste. I truly love you, and you've saved my life, and now I've kind of instantiated that a little bit, and I feel blessed by if I get one view, I feel blessed, and if it wasn't me, you know, or one of my like other people in it, like it's just a blessing to have the freedom to do this, honestly. That's and that you're here with me is just beyond belief. So I'll see you next time, and take care of yourself, you know. Reach out if you need anything.